This video will be talking about how to read world time zones. Now, please don't feel intimidated by the following pictures that I will be showing. There is somewhat a lot of information to digest when looking into a time zone and how to read a time zone. But hopefully this video will cover every single form of explanation that is to cover, and also give you a little bit of a reference point in regards to how time actually exists within the world. So what you should have within Compass, there will be two time zone maps. The first one looks like this. Now, I don't mind this time zone map. It's quite colorful. There's a lot of colors to look into. But unfortunately, you can't really zoom in onto it. And if you're looking for a specific place, this is a bit tricky to use as a reference point. Especially within around here, it can get a bit muddled up. So I instead put another picture up, and this map, when fully zoomed out, looks like this. Now, it's the same type of map. The color is a little bit different, but you can actually zoom in on this one. And there's quite a few little pieces of information that you can look into. But without getting into too much detail, how the map actually works is there is a place within the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is right here. And I'll put up a map of the United Kingdom up right now so you can have a look at this. This is United Kingdom, also known as the UK. So the UK is said to have been the place of where time was first invented. It's the central point of where time was used, which is a bit confusing, but I guess we all have to have some type of central point of some sort. So this you can see here, that the United Kingdom, and with Iceland included, when you scroll up to the top here, it's marked with a number 0. This is just the starting mean time used as a reference for every single place around the world. So whatever the time is in the United Kingdom, or specifically Greenwich, if you are to the right of this within the world, you are technically in front, depending on what region you are in. So right now, Norway, which is in the column 1, is technically 1 hour in front of the United Kingdom or Greenwich. So if it was 12 o'clock in the morning right now, it will be 1 o'clock in the morning in Norway, and in Sweden, and in Poland, and Germany, etc. The tricky thing about this is that it doesn't necessarily work with straight lines that cut straight down the middle. And there's a bit of confusion when it comes to time zones because of this. Because as you can see here, just below the United Kingdom, we have within Europe, France, Spain, Germany, Poland, Czech Republic, Italy, etc. And despite France being directly below London, it's actually an hour in front. So if you at this point here within London, took a boat and you traveled there, you would be 1 hour in front of where you initially were to begin with. But then the opposite of this will happen if you go to the left of this time zone. So say for instance, this little area here, it's a quarter to meet. Not too sure what that is. It's probably some part within Greenland or Denmark. You'll be an hour behind the mean time. So Greenwich is just used as a focal point, which is in the United Kingdom as a focal point, and where you are positioned within that area determines how far front you are or how far behind you are from the central point. Now, that's not to say that you always have to use the United Kingdom as a reference for your project. This is just used as a reference for the whole world. If we zoom a little bit out now, you can see that it's chunked up by either 1 hour or adding 2 hours or 3 hours. But say for instance, your starting point, let's go all the way back to Australia, which is right here. So right now, when you look at the time zone, we are currently in Melbourne, right here. And we belong into the time zone of plus 10 hours. All that means is this, we're adding 10 hours to the mean time within Greenwich within the United Kingdom. So if it was 12 o'clock in the morning or 12 a.m. in Greenwich, we are ahead by date and by time by 10 hours, so it would be 10 a.m. there. In fact, I'm recording this and right now it is 12:33 p.m. They would technically be behind by 10 hours. So the time there would be 2:33 in the morning, or 0233 military time, assuming that daylight savings has not been applied. Now, to cause more confusion to this, despite having all these different time zones and chunks and whatnot, you notice that some areas within the time zones have these little diagonal strips that go across. So what that means is, instead of that area belonging to the time zone of adding 9 hours, they've indicated that they're actually ahead by 9.5 hours. And I'm not too sure why they have decided to do this. I don't know if it's to just do with being ahead by just that little bit. But technically, this middle region here, which is Northern Territory in South Australia, are 9.5 hours in front. And then on the furthest right hand side, which is Queensland and New South Wales, Tasmania and Victoria, they're ahead by 10 hours. So the difference between this right hand side and this middle area is 30 minutes or half an hour. And that's why when we did the example of going from Cairns, which is on the right hand side, to Darwin, which is up the top, this is only just a half an hour difference and not an hour difference as what's intended. But the weird thing is, if you go from this right hand side here and you go all the way to the left hand side to this region within Western Australia, which is plus 8 hours, you're technically going back by 2 hours. So from the right or the east to the left, which is the west, you're going back in time by 2 hours. So it is a little bit confusing to get your head around it, but how I think of this is, if I want to go from one place to another place, all right, so I'm starting at Melbourne and I want to go to, say, Madagascar. All right, so I'm going to go to Madagascar, which is in region here, which is plus 3, because I'm going from 10 plus 10 to plus 3. There's a difference of 7 hours. Okay, and because I'm going back to the initial spot, right, so back to where Greenwich is, or in the direction of where Greenwich in the United Kingdom is, I'll be taking away 7 hours. So I'll be going back in time by 7 hours. So effectively, I'll be gaining time in that sense. But if I'm going from Melbourne to the right hand side, to say maybe I want to go to Vanuatu, you can see that Vanuatu is within the plus 11. So I'm going from plus 10 to plus 11. So I'm actually adding an hour to this. Okay. Be careful whether you're going to add a full hour or maybe an hour and a half, or different types of half hours. See, India is in front by 5.5 hours. But then in Nepal, it's 5 3/4 of an hour. I'm not too sure why. Burma is 6.5 as opposed to 6. But as you know it, I'm not too sure if you do know this, all of China and Mongolia, even though it spans over 4 different time zones, they all use the same time. And it does get a little bit tricky because of that. China is 8 hours, I'm pretty sure it's, 8 hours in front of the Greenwich time, but this is all of China. So if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, let's use a better reference. If it's 7 o'clock in the morning here in the furthest left-hand side of China, it will also be 7 o'clock in the morning in the right-hand side of China over here. Which seems a bit far-fetched, so maybe one side will still see stars and the other side will see the sunshine, even though it will be the same time. So that's how you read time maps. If you still need a little bit of help or direction, give me the heads up, but it's relatively simple once you get the hang of it. Just make sure you know which direction you're going into, left or right, and that will dictate whether you're adding or subtracting that time away from your destination or flight time, or driving time if you design to drive. So if maybe you want to do a road trip from France all the way to Ukraine, that's going to be adding an hour to it as well, because you're going from left to right. But if you go from Ukraine to France, you're going to be minusing the time. It just really depends on which direction you are going. That concludes this video. Hopefully this gives you enough clarity. Still ask me if you need any help, and I'll see you guys soon.